The last time we were together, we talked about a verse in Exodus chapter 21 that people have utilized in ways to say that, well, see, this is just a miscarriage. If something happens and a pregnant woman is injured and she has a miscarriage, then if it's because of some kind of violence around her, there's a fine. And see, that's the fetus is just not as valuable as a living child. The problem with that is, out of the 90 times that word is utilized, it's translated miscarriage in a few English translations. It never has that connotation anywhere else. And the other passages where it does talk about a birth, it's not talking about a miscarriage. There is a Hebrew word for miscarriage, or a child that's stillborn, and it's not the verse that you find here. In the statement that is made in chapter 21 of Exodus, verse 22. If men fight and hurt a woman with child so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband imposes on him, and shall pay as the judges determine. No harm. Some say, well, see, that's just the harm to the mother. That's not what the verse says. I want to continue that thought with some other verses and then talk about a concept that is pervasive in our culture, but wrong. In Genesis chapter 25, Rebekah is pregnant with twins. The statement's made in verse 22, the children struggle together within her. And you think, well, okay, according to culture, that can't be right. They're not children yet. They're not children till they're breathing air on their own. So Genesis chapter 25 must be incorrect. Or even that statement in Exodus 21, she gives birth prematurely. Well, that's really talking about a miscarriage. No, it's not. Or what about the book of Psalms? In Psalm chapter 22, verse 9 and verse 10, David says, you are he who took me out of the womb. You made me trust while on my mother's breast. You took me out. Well, no, there is no me. There's no me until after you're born. The me cannot exist in the womb. You're wrong. So who do I believe? In Psalm chapter 139, verse number 13, you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. The next verse, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Me, you formed me. Well, that can't be right. That's just a fetus. That can't be right. That can't be a person. You know, here in certain parts of our culture, a statement over and over again that a woman has a right to her own body. That's true. The problem is that fetus isn't her body. I thought, well, that's preposterous. Is it? Article in Science Daily. There was something that was published back in June of 2012, a few years ago. Here's the title. Pregnancy. Why mother's immune system does not reject developing fetus as foreign tissue. Not her tissue, not her body, but foreign tissue. In part, this is what it says. Researchers at NYU School of Medicine have made an important discovery that partially answers the long-standing question of why a mother's immune system does not reject a developing fetus as foreign tissue. Quote, our manuscript addresses a fundamental question in the field of transplantation, immunology, and reproductive biology, namely, how do the fetus and placenta, which express antigens that are disparate from the mother, avoid being rejected by the maternal immune system during pregnancy? End of quote. They discovered that the embryo sets off a process that ultimately turns off a key pathway required for the immune system to attack foreign bodies. As a result, immune cells cannot harm the developing fetus. Why? Because that particular protection is placed in that biological background, that genetic code. Because the fetus is different. The DNA is different than the mother. This idea that a woman has a right to her own body, that's true, but the fetus is not her body unless you reject science. Turns out the Bible was right. Woke individuals are wrong. So who do I follow? We need people that are more interested in digging into details rather than accepting a point of view with which they feel comfortable because they don't want to be challenged. They don't want to be wrong. Well, nobody wants to be wrong. But how do you stop being wrong? You learn what is right. There's the difference. Interesting set of verses. Supported by science, not supported by those who argue that the fetus is just a part of the woman's body. Oh, it's attached. It's connected. It's being fed. It's growing. But the fetus is different according to science. Please stay safe. We'll talk again soon.